Hello. Hi, everyone. Good evening. If you're here in the Zoom, thank you for being here. Can I just get any acknowledgement that you can see my screen?
Hector
Yes, I can
sees
see
your
your screen.
screen.
Awesome. So you hear me and see my screen. Great. All right. So I want to remind you what we did last week and go over some stuff this week. I don't want to make extremely long videos, mostly because it takes a while to get through them. So I want to be a bit more pointed this week and hopefully make a shorter, denser video that's just easy to go through. All right. So uh, this is week 4 of the class. This is our second week trying to make work using 3D modeling programs. And initially, I asked for an image that comes from that 3D model, the download from the Smithsonian. It's an open source model. You can download it. Okay. This week, we're going to look at how to think about image textures and their function within the model or as part of the mesh. And we're going to talk about working from images to build a model as well, develop a mesh. And we'll end with a discussion on uh, looking at your work on your page. So your GitHub page should have a viewable interactive component that demonstrates your ability not only to work in Blender, but also to uh, export that work from the application and put it on the web on your page. There's there's a number of references that you can look at in the announcements. One of them that I would like you to consider as a really good example is this student here. So she made this head out of clay and then used it as a reference for a 3D model uh, and created this scene using the model. So the model was the head that was sculpted out of clay, and then she made something else in 3D based off of that, right? That's as part of this environment. But the main thing here that you should take from this, and if you want to visit, it's up here. Put it in the chat for those of you. It's you're able to click the model, you're able to look around it. You can see that it's not a still image, but it's something interactive in 3-dimensional space. Okay, so it's part of her page, right? You're able to click here and go to that next step. Okay, so that's a really good reference. Carla's work that last semester, she went from not being able to do this to doing it in a pretty clean way. All right. So this code here, you can use it in your uh, files, and it'll give you a model viewer. Now, if it's going to work well with what your current configuration, right? Like you're going to have to figure out how to bring it in, where to put it, what's the best way of encountering it and engaging with it, the model that is, right? Is it again a page that pops up? Is it a separate page? Is it part of the page? Okay, you'll see a bunch of different examples in the announcement on portfolio examples. Okay, so just look up those 3D model. You have to go in there. I'm sorry, wrong. Chair. The portfolio examples announcement. Okay, so there's some really fun, cool places that you can go to download things, whatever you want, right? So these are all sculpted and people can sell their work on this marketplace, right? The company Sketchfab is a great example for I like classical sculpture, right? So this is another example of something really sophisticated. Okay, it looks somewhat like a scan. The geometry on the bottom side feels a little incomplete. It's giving a scan, right? Can you download it? No, I don't think so. You probably have to, yeah, it's not able to be downloaded, but some of these are. Okay. So inside of the pages area for our class, you'll find that, am I in the wrong class? Yes, fine. You'll find this link with a lot of information that may be useful for thinking about what I'm asking you to do. And there's some interesting pages there that you'll encounter if you click through it. But here we are in Blender, okay? And what I want you to consider is this object. So this is a piece of wood, and we're looking at one side. This is the top. This is one side, and this is the other side, right? So I'm able to document this actual object from multiple sides, right? Now I took those on my phone, so they're HEIC files. I mention this because it may be problematic for you if you try and import the image reference and it doesn't work. Okay, so we can try it, and then if it doesn't work, we'll have to convert those files. I think on the latest update, there isn't any issue. Okay, so Shift A, image reference on my desktop under my folder for 10C. I have a bunch of things here, but that doesn't show up. Okay, now if I click in here, right, I can see that it's in this folder. So that means that I need to convert these to PNGs, otherwise the program won't recognize it. Okay, so now I'm in preview. I'm selecting all of the images, file, export selected images, change that to PNG, okay, desktop, 10C, and I should be organized. 3D demo, choose, great. Now, it didn't come up. All right. Image reference, desktop, 10C. Here's my 3D demo, and now I have these 4 images, right? I need to do this one at a time. So one key thing here is I have to sort of make a decision about what is my front. And the reason for that is if I come over to view, viewpoint, front, I want to be looking at the object as if I'm looking at the front side of it. Okay. So let me clarify what I mean by that. Let's do that. Uh, maybe. View that this rotation. I see. Want it to be at 190. Where is it 180? Yeah. Okay, there we go. That's my image. Still rotated. I think this actually has to be the opposite. There we go. So that's my image. All right. Now I'm want to be considerate of how big my image is. Right. If I wanted to increase it slightly, I could do that. This scale also works, right? 2, 2, 2. So now that I have my image reference, I want to think about bringing in my other images. So Shift A, image reference. All right, that one is not working. Okay, so we're going to delete that and we're going to see why it's not working. So we're back in 10C. We're back in 3D demo. And these three didn't export for some reason. So I'm going to, Malachi, do you have a question? So I'm going to go back and do them one by one. This is my top. I'm going to open with preview, file, export, PNG. Come in here, Shift A, reference. Try that again. Not try add image reference. Okay. You might need to close the file, open it. File, open, view, front, you have a numpad like me, then you can use one. All right, here I can use the numpad. I'm pressing the numpad there. Okay, I just want to show you all how it looks. So we're gonna add image reference, desktop, 10C, 3D demo. Okay, now it works, right? Sometimes Blender does something like that, which can be annoying. We just gotta be patient. All right, so I just want to rotate along the X 90 degrees. And I want to bring it to the center because that's where I'm modeling. Okay, so it's 0, 0, 0. Now, one thing I want to do here is I want to consider what the relationship is between these. Now I can change this. If I come over to data and I go to opacity and I bring it down to about 50, right? I can somewhat see through it. I can do that for this one too. 0.5. So now I can see through them, right? And I want to bring this up just the tiniest bit so that it's roughly on the same plane, right? That looks to be pretty flat now. That's flat. Okay, and I want to align them a little further. Now, since I have this edge to work with, I'm going to bring it over along the Y just there, roughly. Rotate it the slightest bit on the Z axis. Okay, there I am. Now, if I scale this up, I see that here I'm almost at the edge, right? It's kind of meeting there, okay? But here I need to kind of come this way. Now, if I grab this, and I can scale it along an axis. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the object, okay? I'm clicking X to scale G, S, then X to scale along the X axis. Here, I'm going to just move it slightly over the X axis. So I need to scale that again. So scale is with S and G to grab and move it over. Maybe I can move it just a little bit more. That looks fine, right? That looks about right. Okay. So if you're in the chat or you're watching this live, I hope that you can understand what I'm trying to set up as a reference here, right? For how I'm building this model. Okay, so my references are going to guide the things that I add to this space, right? So I have a couple more references that I can use, right? I have my front and my other side view. So I can come over here to this front view. We can try to export this. Hopefully it doesn't give me any issues. PNG 3D demo save. Shift A, add image reference. Front, awesome, works. Okay, so I want to rotate along the X 0 degrees. Okay, now I'm just gonna zero. Okay, so now that it's flat, I want it upright. Okay, so let me actually do that right here. Rotate along the X 90 degrees, rotate along the Z. What is it, 180? No. 90 degrees. Now I can bring that, actually, there we go. That's how it actually was. All right, so I'm just gonna line that up here, bring it up a bit, bring it, and I can't really see, so I wanna make it a bit transparent. I'm trying my best to line it up here. I think it needs to come up a little bit. That seems about right there. I just need to bring it over. Here we go. Now, height-wise, it needs to expand upwards. So I'm going to do that by scaling it. And that might be a bit big. GZ, GY. That actually looks perfect. Okay, so I have it could come up a little bit. Scale just a tad bit more. Y, G. All right, that looks better. So I have a view of the front, and I'll work with this for now. I could, if I had a bottom right, I could use the bottom. If I had this side, I could use this side. But for now, I just want to start here. So I'm going to go numpad 1, which means I'm in the front. And this is where you might get lost. So I'll try and do this pretty simply here and quickly. I won't talk too much. I want to add a mesh. Okay. Now that I'm looking at that, I want to edit. Select. I selected those two. I'm holding shift. I selected this. So I have 1, 2, 3 selected. Click X, delete vertices. Now I have a point. Okay, so up here, edit. I clicked vertices. So I'm selecting vertices. You can also select edges and faces. Okay, you can come over here and do the same thing. And more. All right, so now I have this point here, right? It's listed here as plane. I can change the title of that. But for now, I'm going to keep it. Okay, so I'm going to reactivate my reference images. And I want to bring my point. Now I'm going to go to my front view, and I see my point is right here. I want to bring my point over. And when I'm modeling, this is absolutely key. Absolutely key. When I'm modeling, I want to stay in front view. So I don't want to model in perspective. Okay. This is really key here. So I have everything converged in this moment. So I want to think about where that is. And along my y-axis, it's at 0. So if I go to object of my plane, right, this thing right here, I want to get out of edit mode too. So let me select my plane. There's my plane. And let me make sure I have it. Okay, so along the y, it's at 0. Now, I want this cursor to be on that point. What I need to do is, okay, so here we are. That geometry is now at the center. Okay, so when I do that, if I go to 0 along the y, should be there. Yep, right at 0. Along the X, it's at 0. And now I want to bring it over to this point. So X, there we go. Now I have that. Okay, so if I go into edit mode with that selected and I extrude, now I can extrude more points from that. Okay. So notice what I did. I have my point. That's my vertice. I put the origin to the geometry, which means that that singular point got lined up with this, which means I could use that and the location, okay, to put a pretty precise location or position, let's say, rather, for the point in relation to this model. It's a big deal, but over time, hopefully you struggle with this and you understand that. But if I'm looking at it from my front view, okay, which is where I want to start this model. And if you can't see it, you hold shift and middle and you're able to move left and right to pan it. That's this tool, move the view. Okay, not perspective, move the view. Okay, so there's my point right there. If I go up, right, okay, I think, I'm in edit mode. Hold on. Go to object mode, back here. Okay, I just want to line it up first. Something like that. Okay, so there I am in this single moment, right? I have my single point, single vertice lined up on top of my reference image. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to trace this shape and I'll have a plane that I can work with and do a number of things with. But something that should come across to you is we're able to take reference images of things in our world, right, in three-dimensional space that we call life, just out and about, right? We can take reference images and then use that to simulate a three-dimensional object in digital computer 3D modeling space, okay? So here's this point. If I go over to edit mode again, I can now extrude. And because I'm looking at it from the front view, when I extrude, right, so I'm clicking E to extrude, select, that's the select tool. G is to grab, right? We talked about that last week. Okay, so G is to grab, and S is to scale, but E is to extrude. So if I extrude, I'm able to pull something out. Okay, so that's called extrusion there. And what I'm trying to do is just trace this image. I'm using this one side as a reference. Now this object, I use it because it's super simple to model. There's some really easy functions in Blender that you can actually use to model. And there's so much more that's possible too, but for learning the environment, that is the application, right? The software, the interface, all that. I think something like this is extremely useful. Okay. All right, so there I am. E, right, down there. Now I have a long straight line, so I'm just going to extrude all the way here, but I need to close the mesh. So this is selected, this vertex on the right is selected. I need to close the mesh. In order to do that, I'm going to hold shift and go over that. Now both are selected, and I'm going to click F as in fill. What happens is I make a mesh, right? So if we look at the object, now there's this connection between everything, right? It's a single line that I've used to trace that shape. Okay, so all of them selected with the letter A. And if I click F again, now I made a face. All right, so it's not hollow anymore. There's a face, can't see through it. Right? No face. That's just a line. As soon as I click F and I fill it, I make a mesh with this plane and a face. Right? So I can grab the face now. I can select face here, right? And I can grab that. I've also made edges, right? So I can grab those. Those individual extrusions formed edges. Okay, but if I grab this face and I pull up this top reference image, right? Let's say I wanted to extrude outward. Now I have something that looks a lot like that object in terms of shape, right? So I use some really simple principles in Blender in order to make an object that's based off of my reference images. And having that front reference, having the side and top reference was how I was able to build it. The more complicated the shape, the more you have to think about what exactly you're trying to build. Okay, this is super simple. It's a geometric shape, right? Now, let's say we wanted to think about this, okay, as not just a kind of this geometry, right? But as an object in a scene. Okay, right now it has no material, okay? And this light source that's up here, I'm gonna go into object mode now. So this is what you're looking at as far as the model, right? It's a very clunky model, very simple model. There's a couple different modifiers that you could add in order to make this a bit more rigid. All right, but here's my model. If I grab very quickly something like a plane, okay, I'm going to add a material to this plane, make it somewhat rough so that it's less reflective. Okay, here, it's going to auto smooth that. Okay, with my light, I'm going to move this over a little bit, move it up so now you can kind of see, right, the model. That model has no material. If I add a material, now it has a material that I can change, right? If I want this thing to be red or whatever, you can just imagine that. Okay. Now, something I want to add is a image to this. Okay. So I need to come back into object mode. No. Okay. Let me get back up. So in shading, we add an image texture, connect this. Oops. Okay, so now I've added this image texture to the material of this object. Okay, I'm going to do something super simple here. There I am. look up wood texture. Okay. There it is. Just a random, when I download this without having to pay anything, no. Can I preview? Possibly. I'll just make a quick screen grab of this. It'll be really rough. Something else I could do is I could go into Gemini or even Photoshop and ask it to render wood texture, which I think is worth showing you guys. I'm opening up Photoshop. Give me 1 second, everyone. Okay. Or even if you go into Adobe stock photo. Okay, Photoshop's opening up really quickly, but I just want to show you guys this. Because this is one beneficial use of Photoshop, just as an everyday kind of general usage. Instead of paying for images, you can just render versions of them. So I'm in Photoshop. I can make the file whatever size I want. That's something I can always control. I want a relatively decent size, but nothing too big. 7x10 works well. 300. I could even bring this down to about 200. I don't need that much. Okay. Create. Now, the tool is I select this and then generative fill. Generative fill brings this up. Wood, grain, texture, cold, and weather. Let's see what happens there. Of course, you could take a picture of wood, but I just want to bring this full circle and talk about how to add a new image texture to a model that you've just made. Right, the images I had already had wood texture there. I could have pulled from there, from that. Okay, so here's one option. Here's the second option. I kind of like that one. Here's the third option. So these are completely AI, and you can do this in Photoshop. And you can pretty much ask it to do anything. And if you're editing an image, you can select an area that you want to edit in a specific way and ask Photoshop to do it. So again, the way that I went about it was I used select to click the entire or to select the entire area of my composition here, my file. And this generative fill option comes up, but you can also do it through I have to look through it. I forget exactly. Usually it has a pop-up that just comes up. Oh, there you go. Generate image, generative fill. Right. So Photoshop has gone in the direction of implementing AI in the interface and also as part of generating and editing images. So, if you're not comfortable with it, you can get comfortable with it and you can explore different options that you have there. But okay, so I have this image. All right. Now, I don't want this one. I'll keep this one just because. So I'm going to export this as a PNG. Now that I have it as a PNG, wood, can see, 3D demo, save. Okay. Now that I have it as a, oh, maybe minimize this, we might come back to it. I'll exit Photoshop, but I hope that was useful. In the chat, if it was useful, let me know. If not, there was some relevance here to what we're doing. Okay, so I'm inside a Blender and I'm in the image texture node. This is the node view of my shading window. Okay. Thank you, Juliet. I'm glad you feel that way. Okay, so open and desktop, 10C, going over to 3D. There's that wood texture that I just generated. Now the wood texture is here, okay? But what I want to see is, where is it on my model, okay? So I'm gonna select the entire thing. Go to object mode. Good. It seems solve one island. I wonder what the island is. More reshading. There's the model view. At the very least, let me train. Went this route, but let me see if I can. There we go. All right, so because of the mesh and the way that it's been built, you'll have to right click it in the UV editing, right click UV and wrap faces, and Smart UV project should automatically generate a set of faces, or basically the unwrapped version of your model that you can orient on the image texture. So if I grab all of these, I clicked here and then I pressed A to grab all. I'm going to rotate them. Okay. You see what that does to the image, right? So I'm changing the position of the image in relation to these faces and how they've been unwrapped. Okay, so that plane, right, you can't see beneath, but I've added this image to my model as an image texture. By UV unwrapping it, I'm able to manipulate the faces, I'm able to manipulate the vertices in relation to the image texture. Okay, so, right, if I wanted to grab this face, for example, and change its position, right, I see it over here. So I'm grabbing it, and if I change its position, it's going to change the image that's there. Right? So if there were any issues that I saw, I could kind of change that quality of it. But, for now, this seems to work well for me. Maybe that if that bothered me, that would be different, but okay. So now I'm going to come back into layout, and we're looking at this object now with this image texture that's been wrapped onto it. Okay, so for your assignment, whatever you decide to make, you'll have to place it in an environment surrounded by objects, wherever you get them or however you make them. However you think of the environment is up to you, but at least one of them has to be sculpted by you. So I would think about what you're going to sculpt and what kind of place it's at. And I'll show you some examples right now before I finish up, and we'll end with talking about the model viewer, right? But something like your light source is going to influence how this object seems, right? You can change the position of the light. You can change the type of light. Has a completely different feel, right? And also for this, for the demos that you're going to be asked to submit this week, think about the orientation of the camera to the object, right? So I have my camera selected. If I click 0, I'm looking at what my camera's looking at. Because the plane is behind it, right? I get that in my image. Now look at that. Click render image. I'm currently on Eevee for my render engine. So the image that I get is going to be a little lower quality, lower poly, right? If you see this is a very low resolution image. I wanted to get something higher resolution. I could change the qualities of the format under output properties of the resolution, right? I can boost the size of that, okay? Or I can altogether change the render engine over to cycles, which requires more of my computer. Okay, that's something that you should know when you use that. You're using more of your computer. And you can also kind of fine tune that. So I won't render this so that we don't waste any time, not waste time, but so that we don't use any other class time to render the image, right? But as you can see, it has a grainier quality to it, but that's the cycles that are actually rendering. And a lot of the work in Sketchfab is using a similar type of rendering engine. Okay, so I'm going to just save that. All right. And again, this is the image that was made from that. So I can go ahead and save that demo.
Professor,
Yes.
what exactly does rendering mean in your 3D?
In 3D, it is a process. So it's like it's an output, it's a function of the program. So when we click render is an option here, right at the very top left of the screen. If we click render, it gives us these options of things to render.
Oh,
It can render an image or it can render an animation. And we'll briefly talk about animation next week in
okay.
Blender. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So it is an
Thank you.
option and it's relative to the program that we're
I,
using.
I thought it was some type of action that you do. So I think that is action what you're doing.
Yes. And we can use that word like outside of computers, outside of computer programs like Blender.
Got it.
But yeah, within the actual program, it has a very specific meaning. It's
Perfect.
how
Thank
how
you.
the yeah how the program develops an image or an animation. Malachi,
It
you had
looks
a
like
question?
Yes, I do. I would like to show you the what I did in the Blender before we end the class.
All right, do it right now. Let me stop the share. Go ahead and share yours.
So this is what I did. This is what I did in Blender.
Nice.
So I
Nice.
thought this could work for the
What okay,
the
so now
object.
my immediate question is what was your original reference image? Or like what were you thinking about when building this model? Did you take reference photos? Or you just kind of like improvising?
Let me see. Let me see. Maybe the reference photos. Yeah. Let me see. And then those other image around my object, I kind of like, let me see. Kind of
Oh,
like searched them up.
all we're looking at right now is just the Blender screen. But what I guess what I'm asking specifically is if you go over to the top right of the screen where of Blender where it has different render options or different viewing options. So top right, it's the four circles. The one
Yeah.
yeah, right. So go to the one to the left. The solid view. So you're under rendered. You're on the fourth one. Go to the second option. Okay, that right there. Where is that model coming from?
I I created myself.
Yeah, but like, what were you kind of thinking? What was your reference point here?
Let me see. Like, my reference point is that I was thinking about creating like let me see, like a toy doll that has holding like a fire torch, and he's dressed up as a he has like a bear hoodie and also like wearing um let's see his own clothes.
Did you build it?
Yeah, I did build it. Yes,
Can
I
you
took a
walk
lot of
us
time for this.
can you walk us through the process of building it?
Yeah, so how do I did it? I have the okay. So what I did was this one. So I searched up like the
Nice.
image, and
Nice.
then the other one was the back. There we go.
Okay.
This was the back right here. So how I did it, I went to like so I found these two images, and
Yeah.
then how I did it, I went to let me see to like object mode. I went to like right here object mode, and I went to add, then mesh. Let's see, I picked the cube, the cylinder. Let's see, and
Mm,
sometimes some of them the planes. And then
nice.
what I did, I kind of like let me see. So I tried to to scale to make sure this is the right size of
Yeah.
like for example the circle with the face right here to make sure it's like the perfect size right here, so it won't be
Yes.
like loosen up or be all messed up or crooked. And then so that's why I did the front right here, and then the back side right here. I So I did the back side too, then making sure the fire torch same size in the front and the back. And the back right here is like some kind of like a bear logo or bear tag. So I had that right there. Let me see. And then how I then I try to add like the eyes and the mouth right here. So it could be the same thing.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Malachi. So go back to the rendered view and
Yeah,
remove the image references, or not
yeah,
remove them, but like
yeah. Like hide them
yeah.
like that, like this.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that is really interesting. So what I'm thinking about now is what kind of environment could the toy doll be inside of, right? Like where, because it
Right.
seems like it could even lend itself to an animation, and you could figure out how to make this into you could build a rig to animate this. So it's not impossible, and you could actually make this into like something more. uh, lending itself to like a playable character or even like a figure inside of an animated animation. But yeah, that's super cool, Malachi.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing. So just to wrap things up here, because I've been going on for a while, I want to talk then about exporting your closed Blender. So when you have a file such as this, right? If I export everything here, that's going to include my plane, right? If I don't want that, then I need to remove it or file, export. OBJ works. GLB has been the standard because it has both the image texture and the object. Okay, and all we want to include is just a selected object. We're going to export that. We exported it to a folder that I didn't intend to, but I'm going to open it up here. So in this folder, I have this model. Okay, so if I open up, right, in this model, I only exported the model that has the image texture on there. So the GLB file comes with both. Okay, it's not treated as separate. Right, so I exported it as a GLB. That GLB file is what I'll then integrate into my page. Okay, so we are going back a couple steps here to 3D notes and references, 3D model viewer. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of zoom through this part. I'm in Atom. I go to my most recent version. I just clicked recover because I'm curious. What was there? I think I was just going off on something. But I've opened up my page. The index is there. The CSS is here. Right. If I come over to GitHub real quick. Okay, I'm looking at my page. That's my URL. Okay, that's my project one. Now we're at the hour mark here, so I really want to just wrap things up. But this image is way too large, right? And the way that I change that is inside of Atom, inside of my style sheet. Okay. If there's CSS that's here inside of the index, that's not the best way to manage my files. I should change that so my style sheet is where all my formatting decisions are taking place. But I have to locate the image first. So let me just quickly look through here. My image was from my demo, and it was right under my header. Right, there we go. That's my image. Okay. Now we have to find the size here. Header one. It's inside of header one. Okay. So I want to view developer tools. I want to inspect the element actually. Order. Um, okay, my rendered size is pretty big, so I can just bring that image down, but I can also change the size of it. Right. Okay, here we go. So right now, I said it was at what? 3,000 wide. Okay, so I would have to go back into Atom under the image source, add this additional line of code, this style, right? So I would have to bring something like that into Atom. And I won't do it because I don't want to go back and forth between GitHub desktop, okay, for the purposes of this. I want to do it one time when we use the model viewer. And I would have to insert it here. Okay, so height is there, width is there, and you can see that it's before the alt. So it'd be this entire thing. I'm determining the width. Okay, so Command V. There is the code, right? So if I wanted it something like 1080, we'll see what that gives us. Okay, so I'm changing the size of that image that's on my site. I did that inside of the HTML file because that's where this tag was located, and I haven't formatted it in my style sheet. Okay. Yeah, get lost in that. All right. So that brings us to here. We have 2 bits of code. This goes in the HTML. I'm just going to drop it anywhere. I don't want to get too lost in this. So I'll put it under featured projects. And I'll figure out eventually how to featured projects. Where does it actually say featured projects? Okay. It's at the bottom of that. Maybe inside the section underneath. I don't know if I need to div that out. Ooh, no. Like, I think it would have to be. And if I made a mistake here, I would ask Gemini. I wonder if I need that section or if I can remove it. Might be able to remove it. I don't want to mess with it too much, but I'll leave this there. So under assets, I'm going to bring in that GLB file, right? So I no longer have it here now. It's in my assets folder. So if I needed to find it, I would go look for it under assets inside of my documents, under GitHub, inside of my portfolio assets. There's the GLB. Okay. So here, path to your model GLB, right? It's going to be assets because it's in our assets folder, and it's going to be titled untitled because that's the name of the file. Okay. Poster, we don't have a poster image, so we don't need that at the moment. That's another part of this. Okay, but coming back to here, this has to do with how your model viewer would be interacted with. So under the style sheet, I can put that just at the very end. And now I saved that. I saved it. Now that I've saved inside of Atom, I can boot up GitHub Desktop and commit push, right? I know it might seem like a lot. It's not. And you can use AI to solve. Use it. Don't be afraid. Use it. Become comfortable with it so that it solves things so that you can keep going. You just have to be a bit like not trusting all the time in that it may make a mistake. Okay. So anyways, there we are. We've pushed, we've committed. I added the code for the model viewer. I made the model, I changed this. I won't see the changes for another, let's say 30 seconds, maybe. Real time, it takes about 2 minutes. So I think I left my GitHub page. Sometimes it might be a browser thing. I don't know. I'm a little bit superstitious about this. I don't know why it doesn't immediately load in some browsers, but I mean tabs. No, see, even still, it's not there. Okay, so I committed, I pushed, I saved. I'm pretty sure I checked all my boxes that I needed to check. It might just be a time thing here. I'm waiting to see the changes. Let me double check that I did anything. Yes, 2 minutes ago. Updated that, updated that. Oh, did I not save the index file? Oh, that's what it was. I didn't save the index file. Wow, that was the big change. You see? Update, index, commit, push. Okay, now we should see something, I'm hoping. I either broke it or we're going to see a smaller image and a 3D model in there. And if it's not, we can talk about how to solve that. And right now, I'm solving these things on my own. I could use anti-gravity to do all of this. Okay, but I kind of want to walk you guys through it just so that you understand. There we go, smaller image. I hope everybody sees that. I made the image smaller. Okay. 3D artifact study, not successful. So this came out, right? This section came out, but yeah, Hector, me too. But we would have to look at this code again. All right, so let me see. Hold on. This needs to be in the head tag. And again, you could ask anti-gravity to come inside of your code and check it out. So, I could there, not sure if you saw that, but inside of my head tag, okay, I put this script in there that loads up the backend stuff, which makes the model viewer run. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And you see that text that's commented out? I could just annotate it in a similar way, right? But instead of style sheet, I could say 3D mod viewer script. And because it's commented out with this opening and this closing, it's just a comment and not actual code inside of my file. So save that. Comment, commit, push. I misstepped one. I'm sorry. I read over that. I didn't even read that. I just went straight into the CSS and the HTML. Okay. So I'm closing all of these things, but I'm really hoping that this was useful for getting a exposure to what's possible in Blender. And then we'll just finish
Professor,
with, yeah,
can I ask Malachi a question?
yes.
Malachi, this is Hector. Did you do
Hi.
your image all by yourself? Was it self-taught?
Yes, it was.
You did all that by yourself.
Yep, I did.
Oh, amazing. Really
Thank
great
you.
work. I really liked it.
Thank you.
Do you work on stuff like that all day long? Is that how you do it?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
So now that, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Check this out, right? My 3D model that I just made is now on my page. Okay, I was able to reduce the size of this image, and I was able to make this model from an image reference, add an image texture to it, and then implement it as part of an interactive part of my page. Okay, I know it seems daunting at first, but we did it within the span of this class. I mean, this meeting, and I did a lot of talking, and we could have done it a slightly more efficient way, but we got it done. So if I was able to do it in this timeline, you can too. Everyone in this current meeting, I'm very confident in that can accomplish this. Okay, so struggle with it over and over and over again until you make a little bit of progress. Once you make that progress, be happy with yourself, and let me know, and we can talk about what potential strategies you can use to get further along if you should need that. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna end it there for this week and remind you all to please reach out if you have any questions. All right. It is 8:45, so we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. So I
Thank
want
you,
to
Professor.
kind of wrap it up. If anyone has any questions, please reach out via email, and I'm more than happy to answer it. And just give it a try. Open up the program, struggle with it, talk to Gemini, talk to whatever, people or AI agents or whatever you have access to in order to get the job done. And I do encourage you to like do whatever you need to do, but at least encourage yourself to embrace the struggle as many of you have been doing. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Take care. I look forward to seeing what you submit this week.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. Bye.